I'm Joe Kane.
I'm Dan Kane.
I'm Sal Conca.
And I'm Wayne Heckler.
And this is the Imperfect Podcast.
Don't forget to check us out at hecklerkane.com and download our episodes for free on iTunes and SoundCloud.
To the bumper.
So today on the Imperfect Podcast, we're talking to Editor-in-Chief Manon de Reeper from Film Inquiry. She's got a really unique perspective on films. She started this as a personal film blog and now has over 100 people on staff. She's doing something really different. It's completely crowdfunded and independently financed, and she's competing with the big dogs. She's competing with Variety and Deadline and, IndieWire and these other sites that are putting out content, and she's doing it a little bit different, I think, because of her unique background in criminology. She has a unique take on films, and when we got to talk to her, she's just super intelligent, and I think, you're going to learn a lot from her.
Yeah, she didn't waste any time right out of school, right to creating the company, so it was pretty impressive.
And she seems very humble too. I mean, she's just she's not like out there gloating, whatever. She's like, this is what I'm doing. Yeah. That's it.
Also a screenwriter, looking to push other projects forward as well.
Exactly, which I think is going to be interesting. I hope she gets one of her movies produced. She just participated in a contest with Screencraft and went the distance.
Yeah, she got into the semifinals, quarterfinals.
Sorry, quarterfinals. But good, really, really good stuff. And I think she's going to continue to be a shining star in the film industry that you're going to see around for a while.
So let's hear from Manon.
Manon, welcome to the Imperfect Podcast. Thanks for joining us today, all the way from Australia.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Glad you can make it on a Friday night. What time is it over there? You guys complete 12-hour difference, 9 a.m.?
Yep, 9 a.m. That's right.
All right, so you're bright and early. We're tired and want to go to bed, but
she's just starting out today.
You're just getting your day going.
Where in the U.S. are you then?
We're in New York.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep, on Long Island, right outside New York City. Have you been to New York before?
I have, yeah.
Oh, excellent.
In 2008, so a fair while ago by now, yeah.
Oh, very cool.
None of us have actually made it down under, although it is an interest for me. I would love to get down there eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally worth the 24 hours of flying.
I bet. Yeah. The sights have to be beautiful. Before we get rolling, I just want to give a shout out to Brandon Waits over at Mixnology and Film Empire for, recommending you for an interview tonight and all that good stuff. So how do you know Brandon, by the way?
I don't know. The internet, I guess. It's the magic of the internet.
Magic of social media.
Exactly. So we just got to talk at some point, and we got along quite well. So we've been chatting about a lot, and so about filmmaking and his film contest that he's running now with the Film Empire, and just entrepreneurs trying to make it in Hollywood, I guess. So that's how we're just being friends and trying to help each other along. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. The common bond of the filmmaker. We're the same. That's how we met Brandon. And we actually recorded their event when they came to New York, when they did their Mixnology event in New York. But let's get into your stuff. Film Inquiry is your magazine, your online magazine. Yep. When did you get the idea for this? How long has it been around?
Oh, gosh. So I founded Film Magazine pretty much. It's like my personal little film blog where I was doing my amateurish film reviews things because I had just graduated from university and I was doing some research. I was graduating in criminology and I was studying some it's still the most geeky thing ever, but I was looking at how dystopian science fiction film presents some of future effects of real life policies. So foreigners and I don't know, mostly crime related as well. So punishment and stuff like that. And I was really enjoying that. Loved it. It was the best time of my life. And I wanted to keep doing film because I'd actually always wanted to get into film because it was my biggest passion. But I I don't know, family and friends recommended me not to go to film school, but I still ended up making everything about film anyway. So my criminology thesis was about film. And so that's when I founded my little blog, and that, people liked it, and I wanted to involve more people because I knew if you have more people, you can do more. Mm-hmm. So that's the ball started rolling, and that was early 2014. Mm-hmm. So and that's ever since we've just been steady publishing stuff, and not too much either. I don't want to publish too much because I don't know how you guys feel, but I sometimes get overwhelmed with how much some of these big magazines push out. Like the amount of content is quite overwhelming sometimes.
Like 10 reviews per day.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we wanted to keep the content minimal, I guess, but the actual articles bigger. So it gives us the opportunity to go a little bit more in depth and explore one film a little bit deeper. And and that's been working pretty well. And more people are signing up to join us to write. Also, a lot of people who have told me that they're pretty disillusioned with current online film journalism as well. Like, we really want to be able to talk about film a little bit more than just Marvel's Easter eggs, or so it's pretty fun, and I feel like more people are picking up on it now. So I'm really stoked and excited that finally all the hard work is paying off.
Excellent. Now, it's funny, since you mentioned it, we're all pressed for time. So how do you decide which films you write about?
Honestly, though, at this point, I have the luxury of having a team of like 100 people. So I have a combined amount of time, I guess. So I personally don't review that many films anymore. So when I do, like, I'm trying to get this little YouTube series of my own started where I just quickly go over some films that I've seen recently. But I mean, even for me, like, picking the films that I want to watch every day is starting to become a bit of a challenge, just because it's starting to get so busy. But I feel like I have this responsibility to watch movies, so
Right.
Well, how is it being at the center of, like, you said over 100 people that you're working with that are submitting and putting in articles here. You're kind of at the center of it. What is like the daily grind for that? Like, what do you do each day for that type of thing?
Oh, well, I do have to say I set it up pretty smooth so that it works pretty smoothly now. So so what I do pretty much is I coordinate when we get like reviews or when filmmakers ask us to review films. Mm-hmm. Then I make sure that my team knows that this film is available for review, and they let me know if they want to review it. Then I request a screener. Then I get the screener to them. They write their review. We have a few editors go over it, and I'm always the final one who then looks it over for the final bits and pieces, and then I publish it. And or we have a pretty strict schedule that we adhere to. Mm-hmm. So I make sure that the schedule is filled in, all the time slots are properly filled, and then the whole social media thing, which I thankfully have some help for now as well. So that it's a lot of work, but it's also fun. So that's
you're running.
And for like other articles that we do, just general features, it's mostly just all the writers pitching their really good ideas, and usually it's like, oh, this is a great idea, so go ahead, have fun, and then they deliver great work.
Yeah, so you basically just jumped into running your own company right after university.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I moved to Australia with my partner, and he got a job here, and I was hoping that I'd be able to do something with my criminology degree here, it was a whole a complex thing, and it didn't really turn out the way I wanted, but I'm not really one to sit still, so I just wanted to do something, so it was my chance to jump into the whole film thing, I guess.
And where does your love of films come from? I mean, were you, as a child, just engrossed by movies or television? Any favorite movies that you can think of it from your childhood?
Yeah, film in particular. My dad was very much into films, and he would always, well, my mom too, actually, but they both were into film a lot. And they'd always take us to the movies, like on Christmas Day, for instance. We wouldn't really go to church or anything. Instead, we'd go to the movies. So that was our thing, so to speak. And so yeah, I don't know. It just stuck with me throughout my life, and I started exploring film myself when I got a little older. And yeah, I don't know. It's the same story for everyone. I feel it's like always the parents who make their kids love movies. So
Sure, of course, yeah. And just as a remembrance, and it's only been 3 years or so. Do you remember the first article you published on the site?
I think it was probably a review of Elysium. Was it called Elysium? It was the film by the South African director. Oh God, from District 9.
Oh, with Matt Damon?
Yeah, exactly. And everyone was like raging on it, how incredibly poor it was. But I thought it was pretty good. And I wrote a little bit of an essay about how the criminological aspects of it were really interesting.
Yeah, I like that as well. I did like that one.
Yeah, very cool. Well,
Yeah.
it seems like you definitely have your own take on it because of your background in criminology. How does that affect your How do you find that your degree and your background in that affects your writing?
Well, it's definitely taught me to look a little further than just the actors' performances or, the visuals or whatever. It's more like I always want to explore the idea of a film more, like what are the filmmakers trying to tell us? Because we learn so much from film. Like most of the situations these characters find themselves in, we wouldn't ever find ourselves in, like they're just completely foreign to us. And seeing those things, it just teaches us a lot about life, I think. And so, yeah, that's definitely the thing that I tried to explore with my degree. And that's definitely what it taught me, I guess, is just to explore film in a bit like more analytical way, I'd say.
Well, I think any filmmaker out there these days, no one who's a filmmaker looks at a film anymore and just goes, okay, I'm taking it for face value what it is. Everybody looks at it and goes, okay, let me dissect this and rip it apart. And your particular view on it is definitely something a little different because of your background. Now we're looking at it as filmmakers and going, okay, well, that camera shouldn't have been placed there. And we're being critical from that aspect of it. But you have a whole different view on it, which is really beautiful and really something different.
It is, but I guess, those aren't like separate things, because the way a camera is put into, how things are framed definitely adds to an idea. It's the whole thing about how if you shoot someone from below, it kind of elevates the person, for instance. So it definitely has that like semiotic, it adds meaning to,
No, absolutely.
So it's not just...
It all connects. It all connects.
Yeah,
When you're
exactly.
making something artistic, the writing, the film, of course, it all connects. And you just have to be very perceptive to pick it up. That's what the art really is. That's why we write these type of articles, right? To express
Exactly.
what
You're
we
right.
saw, the artisticness inside each film. So I think you do that pretty well. Now, tell us about Moral Treatment. This is one of your screenplays. What's going on with that?
Hi. Moral treatment. So yeah, my screenplay. I wrote a story, and it's actually also kind of influenced by my academic background. It's a psychology. It's about a woman who, she's a British royal, and she had the privilege so this is set in the late 1800s. So it's a Victorian era script or story. And she has the privilege of receiving that education in the UK. And she basically is married off to a rich guy in the US, to an industrialist son. And but she isn't really quite into the whole being Sense and Sensibility type of like really woman. So she starts to work at a local asylum because she is a psychiatrist, and she pretty much just delves into the late 19th century asylum and the healthcare or mental health care, and it's quite fascinating because, to me anyway, because there's so many like really terrible horror films set in these type of asylums, and I wanted to do kind of the opposite of give a very realistic portrayal of mental health and these issues and how people were treated back then. So I'm pretty stoked about it. It's a little out there, I suppose, but yeah.
Would you say, how does it differ from like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Do you know that one?
Absolutely, yeah, and it was in a way quite influenced by that one. I personally really loved One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest because it's a little bit more of a realistic portrayal of mental illness, and also just the people in or what a mental hospital was like back then. And it does have like a big twist in the end, and like moral treatment does. So and I always say, just like how screenwriters are supposed to do it, it's like a mix between One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Shutter Island.
Oh, cool.
So yeah. So see, now you know what I'm talking about.
It's always that type of lingo, right? Like
Exactly.
like the Justice
So
League
this-
meets, right?
Yeah.
Well, when you do a pitch, right, you got to do your log lines and all that. I'm sure.
God.
So you submitted this. What was that?
Sorry.
I missed that.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was saying when you submitted this screenplay to Screencraft, right, for a contest, and it's making its way through to the semifinals, I believe, right?
Yeah, but it didn't get in, unfortunately.
Oh,
I just
okay.
heard earlier this week. Yeah, it was kind of disappointing. I got really great feedback. Like, this is totally a movie that should be made, and you did such a great job, and some constructive criticism still that I used to improve it even more. But it didn't get in, and I felt like maybe it's just a little too progressive, maybe because it's mostly focused
I
on
wouldn't
women.
think
No,
that-
I would say no. Let's still make that. Don't give up on it just because one person didn't pick the script.
no.
Right? You definitely could still have this made. You just
well,
have to
so
find
to anyone
the right
who's listening,
production
and
company.
we now are promoting your new script that is going to be out there for
Yes.
for
For any producers
any
looking
producers.
to pick up a script, there's a great screenplay written by Manon.
Didn't do a great job at describing it. So this is good.
I was gonna say, didn't you have to submit log lines and all that type of stuff for Screencraft when you submitted to the contest? Yeah, or no, they don't do it like that.
You could have like a letter with it to go with it, with a really short description, which I guess is your log line.
yeah, the summary of some sort, I guess.
Yeah, I
No-
did do that. I'm just not really good at remembering the log line word for word.
Understood. Now, is this your first attempt at a screenplay?
No, it wasn't, but it was the first that I fully completed and did the whole editing thing and had beta readers and everything. So
Well, I did see
Yeah.
your video on YouTube talking about submitting and completing this screenplay
in 1 month.
In
right?
1 month. You wrote the entire screenplay, which I think was great. Do you want to talk about that video and how it's been received? I think there was a lot of positive comments along with that video.
yeah, the thing is, and it was a challenge for me as well. Like, how do you get into the mindset, I guess, of writing? Because writing can be such a mind suck, I guess. It's just a lot to. You need to put a lot of energy and creative energy into writing, and if you don't keep at it every day so I did it for 30 days, it's easy to get out of that again. So and for me, so I did this NaNoWriMo thing, so the National Novel Writing Month, and kind of adapted it to my own needs, and that really worked for me. And I was like traveling and working during that month still. But just because I had this goal of writing 3 pages a day, which is really doable, I finished writing 90 pages in that month, and I already completed like 30 pages or something before that. So I came down to 125 pages, I think, in the end. And I had and also the thing is that if you're focused on just writing, you don't have the time to go back and edit it like constantly, like that's the thing. You just keep going back and reading what you have and hate what you have, because honestly, that's part of the whole thing. And then you just keep editing it, and you don't actually write anything new. So that was also, it really helped me in just keep writing, don't look back and just keep going.
It's probably a good plan, right? Write the whole thing from start to finish, give yourself a deadline. Then when you have time, say, okay, now I'll make it better. But the story is done. So it's a great feeling to reach that point. Yeah.
Oh my God, when I finished those 30 days and I'd actually had the whole thing, I was like, oh, I can do this.
Excellent.
That already, it's so motivating. And then you can go back and hate on it all you want and improve it. But at least you have the thing.
See, even if you don't win at the contest, you really did, because it gave you a structure of how to work. So you definitely come away with the reward.
The thing is, though, these contests, like the Screencraft one, for me, it was my deadline. I had seen that the deadline was in January 15. That was just my goal. I figured if I want to actually do this, I want to have like a concrete goal that I could work towards and submit the thing. It was my first complete script. I wasn't thinking that I'd ever win. Obviously, I didn't. But I did make it to the quarterfinals, which I'm already pretty stoked about. Right. Especially if you consider that there's 2,000 submissions that they got.
That's excellent.
It doesn't even matter how good your screenplay is anymore at that point. I think, it's more like a game of luck almost. So there's so many people who submit great work. If it all depends on those few people and what appeals to them personally as well, I think. So I still think there's probably an audience out there who might be interested in my story. So I also feel like just winning one contest isn't going to win you the Hollywood game.
No.
Right.
And that's part of it. I mean, now that you've had practice on that arena, there's ways for you to go network. You've met people like Brandon. You meet other people in the industry, and I mean, you're in it. I mean, you probably are connected to so many filmmakers and things like that at this point. The relationships matter. People want to work with people they know. That's one of the things we've learned doing this podcast. We've made relationships with actors and other producers and screenwriters and all that in doing this. So, same thing. Somebody that you meet may connect with that script and want to have it produced, and it may go through a couple of script rewrites before then and before it's finalized. You never know. But it also will give you the fuel to write another script. So.
Absolutely. And that's also the thing that I've learned through Film Inquiry and just this whole screenplay submission thing is that it's more about the people you know. So I honestly quite feel for the people who feel that if they need to win one of these contests to make it, because that's just not the way it works. I feel you need to really, I mean, I'm in Perth, Australia, and I'm trying to get to know people out there. So it's definitely possible. I mean, my magazine has definitely helped me in that position because it's in a very casual way. I've gotten to know a lot of people, and now it's like, hey, I got this screenplay. Maybe we can, you can tell me of some people who might be interested or whatever. So I'm definitely in a privileged position in that sense because I already know a lot of people before I even wrote this screenplay.
Of course.
And but I definitely think that knowing people is very, very important.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Well, going back to Film Inquiry, what is the process, or how can filmmakers get covered by Film Inquiry?
Well, everyone can just basically send in their request to be reviewed to info@filminquiry.com, and I will always put their requests in front of the team, and it's up to them whether or not they pick it, of course. It happens sometimes that just no one's interested, and then it sort of nothing happens.
Sure.
And we can never, that's something I do need to stipulate, is that we cannot guarantee a positive review. So
you may get your review, but you may not want it.
Yeah.
Just
so
gotta always be honest. That's true.
Is there some sort of criteria that you look for a film to stand out?
Not at all. I try to put everything out there because I just want to, as I said, there's an audience for every film. So I feel like I don't try to filter it in that sense. So I just offer it to my team, and then they can decide, and that's a lot more people than just me. So then they can decide whether or not they are interested. So
because there's lots of different. Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Manon, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This was like super interesting. I think your background is great. And your perspective on film certainly, has proven itself to be very popular with Film Inquiry. I mean, it's everybody knows who the site is, and we're definitely fans as well. So thanks again for coming on. Do you want to give out some social media handles or how people can get in touch with you? Or
well, first of all, thank you so much for having me again, and it was a blast.
Cool.
And my social media stuff, well, at Film Inquiry, so that's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then myself is at Manon de Reeper, and mostly on Twitter and Instagram. And I'm trying to up my personal social media game, but it costs a lot of effort.
Yeah.
It does. I know.
Yeah.
I'm really bad at it, so I don't know.
It's hard.
Hey, so thanks again for coming on. I want to ask you one more last question. Just how are you Rotten Tomatoes approved? Because I see that only your writing is actually Rotten Tomatoes approved.
It is. Knowing the right people.
Once again, it brings it back. Right, it's all
Networking.
relationships. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you do a great job, and thanks again for coming on.
Thank you so much.